This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome back, everyone. So, in the last two videos, we covered a lot number of points about the pitfalls in requirements elicitation and what can be the steps that you can take as an IT business analyst to steer clear from those particular issues. So, we just have a couple of more points to come to discuss and close this particular topic. Again, as I had already mentioned in the last two videos, it doesn't mean that your projects are always going to have all of these points. These are like on and off. Sometimes you might come across these issues in some projects. In some other projects, you might come across a few other issues and so on and so forth. So this is just to give you a sort of a summary of what are the different things that you may come across and how you can really, face these things and have a effective work as a IT business analyst. Okay, so moving on to the next point, this is about the unrealistic expectations. What does this imply? So, usually, if you are working in a particular project of a client, wherein the client is relatively new to the market, or the stakeholders in that particular client's company are not really wary of how the software application related projects usually, are managed, they can have a sort of unrealistic expectations. The major reason being they are not aware of the exact process that is to be followed, the timelines that are going behind it, and if it takes more than whatever time they had thought about, then why is it taking more time? They may not be aware of it. For example, they might think that adding just 3 or 4 features to a particular project should not take more than, say, 2 months of time. That could be their high level understanding. Reason being, as I said, they're new to the market, so they don't know. If for them it looks from the front end that these are very small changes that you're expecting to be implemented. So why it takes time? But they may not be aware the entire process that goes behind it in order to make sure that you're not just providing the feature, but you're making it happen in such an effective manner that no matter what exception scenarios looked into, what negative scenarios are being covered, and how much rigorous testing happens in order to ensure that these new features are not impacting negatively the existing application, and all those things. A lot of things go behind launching any new feature. So they may not be aware. So they may say that, hey, why do you think that much time is required? Can't you finish it off in these few weeks of time? So that sort of unrealistic expectations can really put a lot of pressure on the total project itself. So if you come across such a situation, how do you manage it? Like even if you say that I need 5 workshops to discuss about this feature, they may say, why does it take so much time? So it is also depending on you as a business analyst to be able to talk to them and make them realize as to why is it requiring so much time, why does it take so much of efforts, and how we are trying to work together to have a better product at the end of the timeline. Okay, so sometimes you may not be able to convince them all by yourself. Then take the support of project manager and talk to the project sponsor or give them examples of the other projects which are running for the competitor products within the company or outside the company, or make use of some existing authentic or authoritative articles or posts which talk about the gravity of software projects, how much important it is to implement them properly, and all those things. Because as I said, they might not be aware, which makes them think so. So it you can take support of other people and try to convince them about their expectations being on a higher side of being unrealistic and try to get those toned down. Okay. In spite of it, if they do, then you have to see if you need to really take it to some higher authorities and get it sorted out. But don't just bow down to the pressure. Don't just think that, oh my God, these clients are like gods to me, so I have to really agree to whatever they say. That's not how it works. If you do that and if you take pressure and if you pass on that pressure to the tech team and all, then eventually the product that gets released will not be meeting the expectations. So that will be a given thing. So make sure that you handle it effectively. If you don't have that sort of voice against the stakeholders who are at a senior position, then take support of those people who can really talk to them and get the things sorted down. Okay. The next thing is lack of timely feedback. This again happens because of lack of time from the stakeholders to really go through the entire document and share their feedback, and then go through the revised document again and share the feedback. So again, here you need to make sure, it requires you to follow up a little bit, you to be a little persistent. If they're not providing you with the required response, if you are in the client location, making a little frequent visits to their desk and trying to get the things sorted out, or being in a sociable manner, yet being a little bit persistent about getting the required feedback from them. Do not feel that okay, these people are not giving feedback, so I can be happy because no feedback is good feedback. No, that doesn't work that way. If you're not getting feedback, at a later point of time, it will come back and bite you. So don't let that happen. And if you are not able to get the feedback, uh, in spite of constant follow up that you're doing, then you see if there is someone else from that division who can give you the feedback, or can you have a quick walkthrough of the entire document with the stakeholders so that they can be aware of the total document without having to spend too much time, and yet get the things sorted out and give you the valuable inputs. But make sure that you get the feedback. Okay, if there is no timely feedback, it will delay the process. And in fact, to be frank, uh, usually the way it works is that the the finance part of it, the money, the budget part of it is also closely tied down to how quickly the requirements are sorted out, and how quickly the development work begins and all that things. So sometimes there will be a pressure on the project manager also to ensure that the approval is happening in place on time. So try to again, go back to the project manager and take his or her support to get the required documents looked into, feedback provided, revised documents relooked into, and finally approving and then signing it off by the stakeholders. Changing business environment, this is again something which is beyond the control of the client also. I don't know if I have given this example, but usually sometimes it so happens that the central regulatory body of that particular country where the client is operating from comes up with a drastic change. Let's say that you're working on a loan product of a particular bank, and the central financial authority, something like a federal bank in the US or the RBI in India, it comes up with a drastic rule considerably reducing the interest rate for that particular loan product related to which your project is, related to. So in that case, what happens? The entire business logic which was there behind the loan product will suffer. That might lead to a situation wherein maybe you're halfway through the product and the project LVD, and this thing happens, and the business team has to take some quick decisions about how to still have a better product provided to the customer, and they might change the business requirements, and that will impact your development lifecycle. All those things can happen. So here again, uh, don't stick to the same timelines. For example, if a project was supposed to be delivered in 10 months, and 5 months down the line this huge change has occurred in the business requirements, so will you be able to deliver within the next 5 months, now that 5 months have already got over? May not happen, right? Because these new changes will definitely impact the timelines. But let's say that the customer has planned in such a way that they want to launch this product as part of the New Year campaign. So they cannot now something which has to be launched on the eve of New Year, somewhere in the last week of December. You can't say that no, these new requirements have come up somewhere in July or August, and that means we cannot really implement it right now. So we need to launch it in March. Then it is no more a New Year campaign for the bank, your client, right? So what do you do in this case? This case, what happens is maybe you reduce the number of requirements that need to be delivered. You deprioritize the existing sum of requirements, which can be taken up later, and focus on this major requirements so that you can still meet the December last week timeline. If that doesn't work, if all the requirements are of high priority, then increase the efforts, and see if you can get some additional developers and testers to really work on the entire set of requirements. So if you have around say 4 developers right now, add 2 more developers, add one more QA person. In that way, you can still meet the deadline of December last week. So that way, there are a few ways in which things can still be managed. So focus on those things instead of saying timeline is fixed. The number of resources available are fixed, and the sort of requirements that are supposed to be taken up, which were fixed earlier, are supposed to be done along with these new requirements, and you need to stick to this. That is not going to work, and you need to be clear on this particular point. Okay, because at the end, as I said, even the business requires some quality product to be delivered. And if they really stress on these things, then you have to say that, okay, we will deliver, but there will be a sort of, we will give a conditional release, which means that we will release the product, but there could be some sort of quality issues. You don't tell it out directly, but you put it in a diplomatic manner. You'll say that if we have to really meet all of these expectations within the given timelines using the same number of resources, then we will be able to do it, but we may not be able to thoroughly do the testing process. Okay, and that could lead to certain production issues. So we have to be having additional support time provided for this, something on those lines. You put it in such a way wherein the client becomes clear that, okay, so this can hit my goodwill in the market. So let's not really rush it up. Let's see if I can delay the timeline or add few more resources to work on it. See what really works. That sort of thing. Okay. So as I said, you will have options to work it out. Do not blindly stick to the limitations and say that, okay, within this itself, we have to work in spite of additional things coming up. Okay, that's one thing. Uh, the one more thing is about the unspoken requirements. So here what happens is the business analyst considers certain requirements to be important and discusses with the stakeholders. Stakeholders are pretty comfortable sharing all that information. And then there are a few requirements which the business analyst may not actually discuss with the stakeholders, assuming that the stakeholders will be aware of it. Or sometimes the business analyst may not call out a few of the requirements, assuming that the BA already knows about this domain, knows about this industry, knows about the client, and all those things. So by default, he is aware of these points, or this particular BA, she is aware of these points. So if they are not asking us stakeholders about these points, might be because it's already clear. That way, even the stakeholders may not really initiate the discussion on those points. And you may not be asking those because you're not aware that it is important. At the end, what happens? There's a scopeness. You're missing out key requirements related discussion. And that will come up later. Down the line when development or testing is happening, those points will come up later, and then you have to really rush up and get the things sorted out in a very short frame of time. So that shouldn't happen. So how do you again make sure of this is um, making it very clear to the stakeholders that whatever is mentioned in the document which is going to be approved, whatever is going to be part of the user stories in Agile project, those are the only things which we will be delivering. Anything if it is not mentioned here, that is not going to be part of the delivery. When you call it out like this, then stakeholders will be a little bit more wary about what is considered as requirements, what is not actually added, and they'll also be a little bit more aware of what needs to be discussed. Okay. The final thing is about the frequent changes in requirements. So this is something which, whether you like it or not, is something which you'll see more often happening in too many projects. Whether the client is a well-established company or a new startup, or the stakeholders are completely aware of the process or not aware, whatever it is, there are ample situations all through the project life cycle when the stakeholders will come back to the business analyst and say that, hey, you know what, Ranjit, this was the requirement which you gave, right? Can you tweak it here? Can you add this also as an additional option? Can you, use this particular feature instead of this? Because you know what, we took a look at the competitor product and they have this in a much better fashion. We want to outbeat them, or we came up with a discussion internally among our stakeholders, and then we realized that this feature has to be implemented in a different fashion. So these sort of discussions keep on happening all through the project, even when the requirements are frozen, even when the development is complete, even when the testing is done, even when you're in the UAT phase. There can be situations where the stakeholders will come up with some new changes. So here it depends on how good you are at negotiating, the timelines, how good you are at convincing them that these are not required, how good you are in telling them that we had this must have should have, right? So this is a should have requirement, so let's not take it up right now. How do you make them agree on the point that okay, these can be taken up in next phase, or you know right now we need more details about it, so let's put it on a back burner for now. So that depends on how you really develop the rapport, the sort of frequency that you have in discussions with them, the way you have this convincing skills, and make things better for everyone at the end. For the stakeholders, you're not actually making them feel that their requirements are not being heard of, and at the same time you're not really burdening the tech team with too many things to be changed and a lot of rework to be done by them. Okay, so this is about the final point about the pitfalls and requirements elicitation. uh, these all points I have captured based on what I have seen in the requirements gathering in my projects, what I got to know by coming across various articles, based on what I got to know from the interaction with the fellow business analysts in my previous companies and all. So these are more based out of experience. So make a note of it. And in fact, this can help you when you're talking about the project delivery, or sometimes when you face an interview. There could be some questions there wherein you'll be asked like, okay, tell me about the previous project that you worked for, and what were the major challenges that you faced and how did you overcome. If you have something really to talk about, it's a very good point. Or else see if you can use any of these points and relate it to your previous project experience, and talk about something using as an example. That can be a very effective way of responding to this question in the interview. Because in interview, this is not like a tech interview, right, wherein you'll be asked about a specific tool or a technique or a programming language, wherein they'll ask you, give me the syntax of this or tell me the format of this. No, that's not how it is. For the business analyst role, it is more about your practical experience, the way you would put yourself in the shoes of that role and behave if you're in that situation. These things become more important. So make use of these things. If you can go through these points and see if any of these things has happened in your previous project, that's an amazing thing, because then you can talk about a project which you have really worked upon and where you have seen this issue. Okay, and try to relate it to the requirements part if it is possible. That way you can steer it towards the IT business analysis discussion. Okay. So I hope it works. In the next segment, we will look at the next important point, uh, and we'll close it here for now. Thanks, everyone.